This is Mainstream Metaphysics with your host, Nick Newmont.
Welcome to Mainstream Metaphysics. I'm Nick Newmont. It is a fall Tuesday night in Southern California, and welcome to beginning of year 6 of Mainstream Metaphysics. If you didn't see the show 2 weeks ago, the 5-year anniversary show, please go back and watch it either on my Facebook page or on YouTube, Mainstream Metaphysics page, that channel. It was phenomenal. It couldn't have gone better. Even with Ed back there, Becca making sure all the guests were in place, and everybody that was on the show was extremely entertaining, and a lot of the guests did a lot of the talking. I was entertained myself, and I really appreciate all the guests that appeared. I think there were 10 of them, I believe, 10 or 11. And what we're doing going forward on Mainstream Metaphysics is that we're having the 5-year anniversary show guests coming back on individually. In a little bit tonight, we'll be bringing on Sheena Metal, who was the second guest on Mainstream Metaphysics back in the days of LA Talk Radio. And it's because of Sheena that I started doing this. So I'm ever grateful. And by the way, if you want a little clue on who's on next week, Carolyn Hennessy, actress Carolyn Hennessy, but she's not going to be talking about acting. She's going to be talking about that cool stuff called hoodoo that she does. So make sure that you tune in and watch. Now, as Sheena will come in a little bit, as we sit here today, there's some planetary alignments that I have posted about on Facebook, things that are coming, and things that we really want to pay attention to. Right now, as of November 3rd, we are in the Mars-Pluto alignment. It's an opposition, which is very volatile, and we can see that there is a level of volatility that's out there. There are 2 major posts that I put up on Facebook. A lot of that information is here. And I sent it in 2 different posts. This looks like I feel like a news journalist ready to read the big story. It's back there laughing. Look, folks, we can see out there that people are bothered, they're upset, they are angry, watching people drive in a very crazy way. And I highly recommend, if you're able to watch this show, then please go onto my Facebook page and read about the Pluto-Mars opposition. And its oppositions create tension. They're 180 degrees apart. They certainly create a certain amount of focus, but the reason I'm making such a big deal about this, and on top of the full moon that's coming this week, before Pluto was discovered in 1930, Mars was the original ruler of the 8th house, the ruler of Scorpio. And with Pluto coming into play opposing Mars, this is somewhat of a battle of the old versus the new. Now, this opposition starts out with Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn. As we move forward, Mars is going to go into Leo, and as of November the 19th, I believe, Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, and Pluto is going to leave Aquarius, Capricorn, forever. We won't be on the planet the next time Pluto goes into Capricorn. It'll be 200 some years down the road. But this is truly, with Pluto going into Aquarius, this is really the death and birth of the Aquarian age that we're going into. Now, anything with Mars and Pluto ruling Scorpio means there's intensity going on, and it's so thick you can cut it with a knife. Now, what we have to watch as we go into this time ahead is because on December the 6th, Mars goes retrograde, which means even though there's a separation of the two planets, it's going to come back, and we're going to experience the opposition full on January 3rd, and then as it moves backwards, it'll turn around, and when we get to April the 27th, Mars and Pluto will align in opposition one more time. So normally, a aspect from Mars to Pluto is about 4 days. This is about 6 months. Even though there are some degrees of separation where the opposition isn't quite perfect, 4, 5, 6 degrees away, it still doesn't really go away. So this tension, this powerful rebirthing of cleaning out the old, bringing in the new, is what we're going to be feeling. But for people, in your everyday lives, this is a time where you don't poke the bear. If you have something that is bothering you, make sure that you talk about it with people that you're comfortable with. Don't go out and start raising a fuss with people that you don't know, because the volatility of Mars and Pluto could set off something that gets out of control. So it's Mars is really unabated energy. Mars is the god of war, and Pluto, is plutonium. It's atomic. So, is this going to be very cleansing in the long run? Absolutely. A Mars retrograde will get us to help clean up the past, and we just want to be careful about who we pick our battles with. It's like parenting. Sometimes you have to pick your battles, with your kids. This is very action oriented. Now, the cool thing about this is that with Mars leaving Cancer going into Leo and Pluto leaving Capricorn going into Aquarius, these planets are coming out of the cardinal signs where things are initiated. So going into Leo and Aquarius will actually temper some of this energy. There's definitely a house cleaning that's going to take place. Now, at the same time, and I actually have a chart that we can look at from above, this coming Friday, early here on the West Coast, Saturn goes direct. Saturn has been retrograde since late June, and on the upside, Saturn retrograde buys time, but it also can slow down business. So hopefully, if there's anything that you were working on building, going forward, when Saturn goes direct this coming Friday, 6:21 a.m. here on the West Coast, things with business will move forward. If your business has been slow recently, it's going to move forward. Now, we also have Mercury going retrograde on November 25th at just before 7 o'clock in the evening here on the West Coast. We'll talk about that more in the upcoming shows. Now, the thing that I'm concerned about in this chart that shows the Saturn going direct is the fact that we have a full moon this coming Friday, and it's in the afternoon on the West Coast. So this Saturn goes direct at 6:21. The full moon takes place on the West Coast around 1:30 in the afternoon. There we go. And so if you can see this, yeah, you sure can. So the moon is opposite the sun, all right? And also, by the time we get to 1:30 in the afternoon, the moon is just a hair over 24 degrees of Taurus, which means we have a very tight conjunction of Uranus on the moon. Well, that means there's a lot of reaction. So we know, even in joking, that a full moon gets people going. it creates a lot of emotional reactions. Well, Uranus on the moon means people do harebrained things. They don't think, they just react. And here in Los Angeles, it is a Scorpio sun right on top of a Scorpio ascendant, which means there's all kinds of covert activity that are happening at the same time of this Uranian-influenced full moon. This is one of those times, without acting paranoid, I don't know that I would be out amongst the public and strangers on Friday night at this full moon with Uranus on the moon too. This is one of those moments that you really do want to lay low. Now, we've got Mars opposing Pluto. We've got a full moon with Uranus on the moon. This is extremely tricky. So be smart, folks, especially this coming Friday with a double Scorpio opposing a Uranian moon. Now, with Saturn going direct, Saturn rules big business, government, authority figures. There could be something that comes out that becomes public. It's public news that maybe people don't like. Or it could be just something, a change that's set in motion. So I would be very smart this week, and especially this coming Friday with the Uranian full moon. This is not the time that you take unnecessary chances or do things that, you're being reckless. With Uranus, people have a tendency to be a little reckless and very reactive. And the other thing about Uranus is it's rebellious. Uranus doesn't obey the rules. And because the moon is your feelings, your emotions, your subconscious. Now, on the upside, on a very personal side, because the full moon is about clearing out and releasing, where the new moon you initiate new patterns and behaviors and habits. The full moon is for releasing what doesn't serve you. So with this full moon with Uranus, this could be something that would be extremely cleansing, and also because Scorpio rules where you invest your money, Taurus is how you earn your money. This could be something that changes in terms of how have you been doing business, how you've been handling money. I definitely would be investigating money habits, especially if your money habits aren't good, because the Taurus is where you make it, and Scorpio is what you do with it. So it won't be boring. Sometimes astrological events go by and we come away kind of, nothing really happened. I don't think that's the case this coming Friday. I think that this is a very, very, very active moon, and people have to use common sense. And with Pluto opposing Mars, there may not be a lot of common sense right now. So, look, folks, you've heard me say many times, especially when we sort of joke about Mercury retrograde, we don't want to give into astrological paranoia, but better safe than sorry in a situation like this. So I would just call your shots before you do anything, and definitely, as I said earlier, don't poke the bear. With Uranus on the moon, and especially in this position, that could have a big effect on one-on-one relationships. Someone that you're very close to, meaning could be a business partner, could be a romantic partner. Uranus on the moon creates that effect that, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the idea is you are supposed to think first before you do anything else. Anyway, do we have Sheena?
Yes, we do.
We do. All right.
You want to bring her on?
Sure. Sheena,
I'm not
how are
throwing
you?
the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not throwing
can't
the
hear
baby
her.
out with the bathwater. I promise.
Hold on one second.
Yeah,
We have to
go ahead.
adjust the volume so we can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yay.
Okay.
I said I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I promise.
Good. Well, you were hearing everything I was just saying?
I can hear everything you were saying. Yes, because Mars also rules Aries, right?
Yes. Yes. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a picnic. It really is. We need to be very careful about what we're doing right now. Look, once we get into May and June, when down the road, we really get into the Neptune-Saturn alignment and what that's going to create, which is actually very good. For now, the intensity of what's happening right now with planets changing direction, we need to be very mindful. You know, Pluto actually rules the part of Scorpio that you and I subscribe to. That's all the occult practices, the sciences of all this, you know, and getting into it on a very deep level, you know, learning how to navigate the river Styx, you know, because that's what Scorpio is. So you and I talked on the phone earlier today. We know that things right now are testy. And what we're trying to do is get people to just calm down a little bit. You know, everybody has feelings. Everybody wants to communicate how they feel, and they should. People have a right to say what's on their mind. The one thing, and then I'll be quiet, let you talk for a little bit. I'm just aware of things that people are doing, actions that they're taking that is actually harmful and violent. And you know, things do balance out. Remember was it 1988 or 89 that the stock market took a big dip and people were offing themselves, and then the next day the stock market came right back up. So anyway, and once again,
I remember folks in the 90s that they put on the tracksuits and waited for Jesus to come get them.
Oh, yes.
And then they occurred, they sold everything they had, and then Jesus never came.
Right.
So we need to be careful about knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, we really do, especially this weekend with this full moon and these alignments. Sheena, one quick thing, I because you were on the show for about 10, 15 minutes a couple weeks ago. Thank you, as always, because when I did your show 5 years ago, good Lord, 5 years ago, that really inspired me to, it's like, yeah, I do want to do this. And you were supposed to be the first guest on Mainstream Metaphysics, but you couldn't. So Craig Shoemaker, of all people, lucky me, right? Get Craig Shoemaker to be my first guest. So thank you. Now you're still out in the desert, right?
I am for a few more days. Yeah.
Where's?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good.
Where's the
cat?
Okay, where's the cat?
The cat's sleeping here.
Okay.
Do you want to see him?
Why not? I love cats.
Where's the cat?
Oh, gorgeous. Okay.
Look at his face. Wake up. Okay, sweetie, go back to sleep. Good boy. I just want, I didn't want the cat to live in the chaos of the model, and I can't work the chaos because of my clients don't hear that in the background.
Right.
So decided to split out for a while, and I find the energy of the desert and mountains to be very magic. I think at some point I will have another home out here, and we'll
wonderful.
spend probably 4 months a year out here.
Nice.
So it's kind of my other happy place, the ocean and the mountains. I mean,
Nice balance. The desert, right.
When there's no desert, I'm not that excited about that. But yeah, I think that human beings are, even without all the astrology that you described earlier, human beings are very volatile animals. And we really need to work as we evolve to become more about going with the flow and less about bucking the system or throwing ourselves against a closed door. You know,
Right.
when you think about, I always think when you think about how old like a crocodile is, we're like a special toddler. We haven't been around that long. We're still in our terrible tube. Like the crocodile's been here for millions of years. It knows now. It doesn't give a damn about anything except it lays in the water unless it's time to mate or eat, and that's literally all it cares about. We're like 2-year-olds. We're all spinning in a circle about this and that, and we're upset about this and why is that happening. I hope with time we will evolve to be more like the crocodile and learn to sort of live more in our Zen place.
Right.
But
right.
you know, it's hard. And then we rile each other up, and it gets crazy. So I'm hoping the good thing that comes from that is that people are learning that it is good to speak your truth and your voice is important. That everyone's voice is important and everyone matters here. Because human beings really need to know that. But that maybe we need to think of everything from a global and a universal perspective and understand that thoughts are things and words are weapons, and everything you say is affecting everyone else. So keep that in mind when you speak.
Exactly. And sometimes when my clients, and this is more my therapeutic clients, not the ones that come for readings, sometimes people have a high level of anger or hatred in them towards someone, and that's in life in general, not just recent circumstances. And it's one thing to verbalize feelings, but it's another thing that when people have deep anger or hatred inside of them, that's in them. That, and whoever they are mad at for whatever reason may not even be aware of that. So it's getting people to understand that to have that negative energy inside of them doesn't serve them. In fact, it to a point, it's shown that it can make people sick. The more that you have negative feelings and negative energy in there. As you said, thoughts and words. Well, the body is full of energy, and we want it to be positive energy. Sheena, you're as much like me. You're as much as a advisor and practitioner as you're a psychic.
Yes.
When people are really upset, what do you tell people to get them to calm down or feel better about it, or even, in some cases, get a different perspective? What can you offer to people to help them?
So my mom had two very interesting things that she could say that I love. One was it hasn't happened yet. And I think that human beings tend to, one thing happens, and then it's like full tilt boogie, right? The machine, the pinball machine's on tilt, and then suddenly it's this prediction of every multi-catastrophic bad thing that can happen for the next months.
Right.
It hasn't happened yet. So we need to not get crazy. I have clients that say I ran up the stairs and I was out of breath. Do I have congestive heart failure? It's like they're working up these problems that don't exist because human beings can be very catastrophic. So that is one thing.
Right.
The other thing is that there are three different things, right? There's what we think, what we know, and what we can prove. And we have to when we get a crazy idea about something, like the world is ending, right? I just realized recently there's this entire community online of people that think the world is going to end any day. They literally believe the sun is going to shut down any day, and we're all going to be done. So for me, that would be the time that you begin to research what is the probability of that. And even if it's something that you think you know, can you prove it? Because if it's a possibility of something, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I think sometimes if you think about things like that, it stops it stops you from going off the deep end as human beings can. I think because I tend to be a very, I think, calming presence. I'm kind of a,
Right.
practical girl, practical Irish girl from Connecticut. So I don't go off the deep end very easily. I spend a lot of time with my clients, reassuring them and playing the games with them, right? I
Right.
can't breathe. I think I'm having a stroke. Okay. Can you see? Can you hear? Are you breathing? Do you have a headache? If all those answers are no, probably not having a stroke. And I think that sometimes people just need to learn to implement checklists so that they don't allow themselves to spiral.
Right,
Or the worst thing, they start to spiral and then they get others to jump on the bandwagon. My best friend had cancer 8 years ago, and she's good. She's been in remission the whole time. But until she was done with treatment, she didn't tell anybody what was going on with her, because she knew what would happen was there would be hundreds of people with their horror stories. And this is going to kill you, and that's going to kill you. And for her own peace of mind, she didn't want to know that. And I understand that. And oddly enough, even when almost a year later she did talk about it, all those people were still there waiting with their stuff. So I think we need to get to a place of just sort of putting ourselves in check a little bit spiritually and emotionally. What is
Right.
really happening, and not the potential for what could happen.
Right.
Because, and I always use the analogy because I grew up in Huntington Beach, right, Surf City,
Right.
USA. Every time you go in the water, could a shark kill you? 100%. Is that going to happen? Probably not. So we need to sometimes just, as I said, just dial it back a little bit, because it's it can get very intense. And the last thing that Spirit gave me that I say all the time to clients is we need to think of our lives and our existence as we need to think of ourselves as a being that things happen for and not that things happen to. Because human beings have a tendency to take everything very personally, right? Everything that happens, it's
Sure.
happened just to them. Some global event happens, it's happening just to me. So I think getting out of your own way and thinking of yourself as a citizen of the universe and not as somebody that things are happening to, or God is punishing in some way. I think these are all things that just kind of keep us in check.
Sure. I actually said to a client the other day, and it's not the first time I've said it because of something that was going on with her, and I said, look, the gods are not up on Mount Olympus with lightning bolts going, we're going to screw with you today. It doesn't work like that.
Just you.
Yes,
Exactly.
just you.
Sheena, only Sheena. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The other thing is that the perceived, and you kind of touched on this, is the perceived future. In other words, we create our own reality. So what I would ask anybody, what are you visualizing? If are you visualizing things going to hell? Are you visualizing a good future for yourself? Because when we visualize, we have to start with ourselves. And so this little tidbit that I'm going to share actually was a suggestion from Audrey, and I applied this last week to 3 different clients, and they all had similar situations. And I said, yes, Audrey is very good at what she does. I said, what is the most important thing in your life? And all 3 of these clients went into various things of their work, their family. And I said, well, if you are on Family Feud, you had got 3 X's. And the answer is you. When a person does not say the most important thing, okay, is me, all right, then they're not really connected to themselves. They're looking to the outside more. And so having shared that little tidbit, people, if they're going to visualize the future, they have to start visualizing their own future. What do they want it to look like? What are they seeing? Because we are powerful beings. What we see, what we project, what we project into the brain is what we create. Whatever we think about, that's where our mind is going to go. So why not imagine, project a good future for the self. And then I'm going to say one more, then I want you to take it from here. A person could be in the eye of the hurricane, and there's a lot of crap going on out there. But in all that stuff that's going around us, we could actually be great, no matter what's going on in the environment, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I just got a hit last night from Spirit for a client that I was working with last night, who is very concerned about things that go on around them and how that affects them. And what the message that Spirit gave me last night was all of the crazy, chaotic things that are going on inside of you don't have to go outside of you, don't have to affect what's going on inside of you. You don't have to let in everything going on outside of you.
Right.
And everything outside of you, because there's a lot going on outside of us all, it's not necessarily meant to be inside of us, and we're not supposed to take it inside of us. And when people get in trouble sometimes is when they take on every personal thing as their own thing. And then it builds up and builds up, and they never release it. They never have any resolution with it. They never let it go. They never get any closure. And then it just builds up like a boil, and they become increasingly more uncomfortable in their own lives. And yes, there are a lot of things out there that are not great. There's people that have problems. There's negative energy. There's, darkness. There's all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But you don't have to choose to be affected by every bit of that. You can, you know what I mean? You could. So, for instance, I have a hard time with the commercials with the homeless dog with one eye and the cat in the cage.
Oh yeah,
I
I've seen
can't.
it.
So when it comes on, I mute the TV, I look away, and then I donate to the charity because I want to be involved. But
Sure.
as an empath, I can't allow myself to take that commercial that I swear is on every 5 minutes. I can't do it because then I will get nothing done for the next 3 days but think about the puppies and the kitties. So I have to find a way to help without taking it all in. And I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened. I was out here in the desert the second day I was here. And we all have, I have not been around as many people since COVID as I was before COVID. I haven't been to as many big events. And somebody invited me to a big gala that was put on by the LGBTQ plus center in the desert. And because a lot of people retire out here, I was probably one of the youngest people there. I'm 57. It was a lot of senior citizens. A lot of older men, gay men of a certain age, and all of a sudden they did this big video about what the AIDS crisis was like. And I started feeling all these emotions, and they were hitting me left, and they were hitting me right. I thought I was going to have a panic attack, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And all of a sudden I went, oh, wait. I'm feeling everybody's sadness, and I need to put my shield of light on and send love and light to all those gentlemen who lived through that tragedy. But I don't have to take everybody's emotions into my solar plexus chakra until I explode. Does that make sense?
Oh, all too much. Yes.
You need to protect
in terms of perspective, recently here I sit in Westlake Village, and just 15 miles away is where those fires have been. It's not that far away. And recently on the news, they've interviewed people that lost their homes in that development. And I have to tell you that perspective is everything. And some of these people that have lost everything, they actually have a great perspective on it and the way they're composed when they're being interviewed. And I give them credit just for the fact that they're willing to be interviewed on the air.
Yes.
Having gone through that. So it is a matter of perspective on life. And we can cliche it to death. If God gives you lemons, make lemonade. I mean that it becomes trite after a while, is some of the cliches that are said. But it is a matter of perspective. And by the way, weeks, a couple months before the election, my spirit guides said that the issue at hand with the election coming up is that there's way too much focus by the people. It's a fear that the wrong person is going to get elected. That's what the guides told me. And so that's very powerful. So, look, that's why I was saying earlier, people are very powerful and they create, but they just don't realize, how they create.
Yes. And as it's been explained to me by Spirit, as a light worker, the universe is very magical, but it's also very linear. And it's very scientific. People say, the difference between science and spirituality. Well, you know what? Here's a shocker. God made science. So the universe is very science-based, and it's very much a reflective mirror of you. I tell clients this all the time, right, Nick? Let's say your boyfriend left you, and all you're saying is to me, he's not coming back, I know he's not coming back. Well, basically what you're telling the universe is, he's not coming back, and the universe is like, okay, I guess he's not coming back. And then the energy they think they're hearing from you, because thoughts are things and words are weapons, you're saying he's not coming back, and that's what you're manifesting. So we need to be careful, and it's hard sometimes, but we need to be careful about the language we use around things.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because we have to be careful what we're telling universe, what we're manifesting. If you're just saying, my life sucks, my life sucks, my life sucks, and then you wonder why nothing new is being brought into your life, it's because basically you're telling Spirit your life sucks, and Spirit sees that your life sucks and thinks, oh, okay, well, that's what you want. So, all right. So we have to remember that the universe is here to help us, but they're also listening for what it is that we want.
Right.
So if you want something different, you have to ask for something different, not just reinforce what you don't like. And I think that stands to what you said, Nick, that sometimes people focus so much on what they don't want, and then they wonder why that thing gets manifested.
Years ago, Sheena, I had this client, this female, and she was in her early 40s, and she just read a litany of what was wrong with her job. And her boss was a jerk. She didn't like her coworkers. It was a long commute. The money wasn't that great. And I'm sitting there going, oh, God. And so about 6 weeks later, she sits down, tears in her eyes, and said, like right out of the gates, that she lost her job. And the first part that I said to her, and by the way, this is not a stranger. I know the client well enough to say it like this. And I said, and I'm surprised why. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you told the universe you didn't want the job. Everything was wrong with it. So the universe doesn't like to see us in pain. And so it takes that away from us so it clears out and we could have something new and different.
Yes. I have a client who was bogged down with toxic people in their life. I mean, everyone around them was toxic. And then we did a lot of work together. They started to get better. And then all those people disappeared. And then it was, why? Where did they go? Why have they left me? And I said, you know what, sweetheart? The universe did you a favor because it took those people away that were just dragging you down. Because we only have, like our hard disk, right? We only have so much room. And if we are filling our lives with toxic people and toxic thoughts, then we're not leaving any room for good things to come in because the hard disk is full. So you have to let some toxic stuff go to make room for new stuff.
Right.
And sometimes universe will just yank those people right out of your life. And some of it's because when you change your energy signature becomes different and they can't hang with that anymore.
Right.
For whatever reason, it's a gift.
It is a gift. It is a gift. You know, in this Pluto-Mars opposition, by the time we get into April, I think people are going to realize what a gift it is. That a lot of crap is going to be weeded out. You know, how this is going to look. It's just a little bit of you know, we've all had a splinter in there, and sometimes getting a splinter out doesn't feel so good.
Just in time for my birthday.
Oh, God.
Well, I'll be out here again then, so I'll hug a cactus the whole time.
God.
I'll make friends with
Yeah, all kinds of jokes about getting pricked and all that kind of stuff. We could just
I'll be
run that line of humor.
Just in time for my birthday. Just in time. Yeah,
Jeez.
it's a lot that's going on right now energetically. I think this 11/11 shift yesterday was massively powerful. I mean, I felt like I was a little out of my body the whole day. More than usual.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see in the next however many months, and you're the expert here, Nick, intense moons, big shifts, very energetically latent days. Like, it's going to be a very powerful next 6 months or so.
And it will be. And you know, the funny thing is, when 3 weeks ago, I did a show on, it was all astrology about the election, about the country. And the funny thing is, the good thing is, that the chart of the United States, especially financially, once we get into around May, is really good. It's really good. So we're we have to clear out the old so the new, the good that can come in. We don't, as we sit here today, we don't know what that is. It's we have to clear out. You have to make a space, but at this moment, it's astrological conjecture that the chart looks good. Although there's a lot of validity to it. I've seen it work for 30 some years. But so what we do is we take that as hope. Nick says it's going to be good, then let's go with that mindset.
I would say, as a rule, along those lines, if we're going to do what Nick says, just in your life every day, start eliminating things that don't feel good and focusing on things that do. Instead of focusing on things that feel bad and not eliminating anything, let's get rid of the stuff that we don't like, If there's something you're not happy about in your life, in your community, in your country, in the world, then instead of working on how to get rid of that thing, work on what can you do in your life to make yourself happy and build up the things that matter to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of fighting darkness, which we all have to do sometimes, raise your light. If something upsets you and you're putting all your focus into this thing you feel negatively about, what you're not doing is nurturing yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Truly.
I think as humans, we do that as a rule. We spend too much time, we'll ignore the 9 friends that love us and focus on the one friend that treats us badly. I hear it from my clients all, how do I get that person back? Why isn't she calling me? Why isn't she paying attention to me? I'm like, why do you care? If she's not calling you, stop calling and go out with all these people that love you.
That is so Sheena, that's so profound and prophetic, because I'm dealing with a client who is a high school student in another state. Okay, he's in a high-end boarding school and is trying to be friends with these guys in the sport that he's in, and they don't want much to do with him, but he's got these other guys that adore him, and he keeps trying to fight uphill, and it's like the universe is giving him these friendships, but he wants to focus on what he doesn't have.
Yeah, and I think we do so much of that as people, and it just leads to a road of unhappiness,
Truly.
I had a client for many years. I saw her in many relationships, and it was always the focus on what he didn't have, what he wasn't doing, not what he did or how he wasn't good. And after 4 or 5 of those, now she can't seem to get into one. And I think it's the spirits. We don't even know what you want, so why don't you figure out what you actually want, and we'll try to bring that in. But if you're just going to nitpick everybody to death, I think we don't realize that spirit doesn't have time for stuff. Spirits run a whole universe. Like, they don't have time to, take your meal back over and over again because it's the wrong temperature. Like, they got a lot of things to do every day.
Right. Right.
So, you need to figure out what it is that you want, and put yourself in the energy of wanting something positively, and not just wanting something so you can pick at it and focus what it is on what it is.
What's fascinating is that, first of all, we know the human condition struggles with too much change all at once. Okay?
Sure,
So compassionately, for people that are upset about the state of the world at the moment, it's like change rocks the boat too much. And I've said this before too, that if you or me told a client that he or she is going to move to this city, get this incredible job, it's the dream job, and meet the love of their life, on paper that sounds good. But when all of a sudden it's like, you got to pack, get rid of everything, box it up, it's got to be moved to New York, you've got this job, yep, you don't know anyone, but the job is going to pay incredibly, and then they meet this person. In fact, I know someone recently this all happened to, okay? It just happens to be an example I've used through the years. But it really sends shockwaves to the system because we like our homeostasis. And when we get shocked out of our comfort level, that energetically does send shockwaves through the system, and it takes a moment for people to settle back in to the new homeostasis. It's just how we're made. Sheena, I've been on the planet a chunk of years longer than you, and aside from what we read in history, we've witnessed things happen that we would call global crisis and disasters and things like that, but we do move past them. We really do. Mm-hmm. We find a way to adapt, and we are way more resilient than at times what we give ourselves credit for. And so when we go through times that we would just look at as not favorable, that there's a way to work around that and work through that and adjust into what we want by creating what we want. But there's all kinds of things that have happened since you've been on the planet, I've been on the planet, that not good things.
Yeah, and I think the last 5 years has been a tremendous shift. I think everybody gets all excited January 1st. New Year, we're so excited. By half the year, they're like, it's a terrible year. I think there's just been a lot of shifts, and people have a hard time with shifts.
Right.
I don't know, you know astrologically more when that period of shift will end, but I know it's at least been, I remember somebody putting up a meme on Facebook. It had a lighter. It was lighting a piece of paper, and it said 2019 on it. And it said, I'm gonna set 2019 on fire and send it back to hell where it belongs. 2020 is going to be the best year ever, and then we got COVID.
Right.
So I just think everything has been part of this shift and this learning curve for us for the past 5 years. Is that something that you see us shifting out of?
Well, because we're going to shift Pluto out of Capricorn into Aquarius, we're going to evolve as time goes on, and Pluto will be in Aquarius until 2044. So this is significant. So we are in an evolutionary time in our lives. The planetary alignment in June with Saturn and Neptune, that happens every 37, 38 years. The last time it happened, the Berlin Wall came down. Saturn, Neptune is about, authority, things of that nature being toppled. The vision is the tower card in the Tarot. the ego being cast down. I mean, prior to that, 1952, the end of Korean War, Stalin passed away. Prior to that, it was 1917, the end of World War I. I mean, it's the Neptune-Saturn alignment is significant on this planet. And it's sort of the illusion being replaced by reality. This is what it is.
Yeah.
So, no, it's and I haven't even thought about this yet, but 2025 is a 9. So we're coming into a year universally of endings.
Yeah.
This is time to finish the business. 2025.
Yeah.
So, but on more of a tuned in psychic level, whatever you want to call it, what are you looking at in 2025? What are you seeing?
I'm hopefully seeing people becoming more emotionally and spiritually resilient, not allowing every little earthbound thing to sway them away from their bond with spirit. I'm seeing people coming into their own spiritual gifts more and thinking of themselves more as light bearers and spiritual warriors and less as people that have no control over anything. I think we're going to see a lot of that in 2025. A lot of all that beautiful spiritual resonance that comes with a 9 year, right?
Right.
My mom was a 9 life path, and I think her feet just barely touched the ground. She mostly lived in the spirit world.
Right.
And I think that we're going to have some of that beautiful 9 energy, which is wonderful.
Well, it's also the number 9, and when you get into the purity of, just call it first grade numerology, it has to do with compassion, sympathy, empathy, caring, counseling.
Yeah.
That's what that represents. And of course 9 is the last number of the 9-year cycles that we live in, so it is a time of finishing business, tying up loose ends. So I think that 2025 will be, as you just said, spiritually significant for people.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And breaking patterns, breaking old patterns, leaving our pupal stage and becoming butterflies. I think that's definitely what spirit wants for us, but we have to do the work on this earthbound plane to live up to that.
Right. So we have to learn to rise above it.
Right. We got to learn to punch a hole in the cocoon wall and crawl out.
And when we go through some of these astrological challenges, especially from planets like Pluto and Saturn, they're not designed to kill us. They build character. And you say that to a lot of people. Again, that sounds trite when you say it builds character. It's like
it's building character.
It's like telling a kid, eat your Brussels sprouts, they're good for you. It's like, but right, exactly. And like you said, in terms of the universe, we are kids.
Yeah.
We sure are. Look, the age of Aquarius that we are in, have just stepped into. Unfortunately, the play and the song from the 60s really didn't portray this properly. It's not peace, love, hippies, and all that. The Aquarian age rocks the boat, okay? Yeah. And because Aquarius is Uranus, so it's that kind of energy is shaking everything up. And it would be like taking a sieve, or a colander, and just trying to get stuff out. So what remains are the nuggets.
Yep. Look for the nuggets, folks.
Right. Oh, there's nuggets everywhere. We just have to see them. We have to have our eyes open.
It's like a constant great hunt. Spirit is always putting little lovelies everywhere for us to find.
Right. They're there, and I know that some people have a hard time, believing in miracles. You have to look for them. You really do. They're out there, but one has to have that kind of consciousness where they allow themselves to have their eyes opened to beyond what's just right